Everyone, Darren Hunter here with Deniz Yusuf. This is the Top Growth podcast show where we talk everything rent roll growth. So Dennis, we were talking yesterday, we're doing new meta ads for the book, and we'll talk about
Yep.
the book shortly. But everyone, we're talking about, and really we've sent it in on a message, and what we've seen, of course, across the industry, rent rolls largely, Dennis, as we know, have been built off the back of salespeople. That is very clear across the accepted way in the industry, or the main way is that a sales department gets leads. People want to rent out their property. Now, property investors bought it. They want to rent it out. And they've simply
Yep.
gone to the same real estate company for their property management services, and which is great. I think many a rent roll, Dennis, most rent rolls are being built purely from that. But of course, in times like this with the housing crisis, so many sales, or lack of sales going on as well, a lack of listings can really stop the growth of a rent roll. So Dennis, let's have a chat around some of the problems of using salespeople and reliant on salespeople.
Well, Darren, before we dig into it, I think, we know there's a difference between sales and property management, but people outside of the industry, they don't understand that. I didn't know. When I bought my first property, my first investment property, I thought the sales agent did everything. I thought it was the same, person that did it all. So now I know, but I've been working in the industry for almost 20 years. So, mums and dads, they don't know. So it is really important that there is differentiation as well, education on that. And yes, so the importance of, not relying on the sales is even higher because of that as well. I think it's extremely high. People
So
just presume.
one thing everyone we're trying to saying here is that you can break away from relying on salespeople and
Mm,
get your consistent lead flow from other sources, then whatever you get from the sales team is a bonus. But it's not your bread and butter. It's not
yeah,
your reliance. So if they have a bad week, a bad month, a bad few months, you're not having the same as well with net growth. Because as we know, rent rolls are always leaking. They're always losing from property sales and from owners moving back in, and hopefully not through bad service and a lack of communication, which, as we know, pushes owners right out the door. So, with that in mind, Dennis, we were recording new ads for the book. And guys, if you haven't got the book, Lead Machine Secrets, which is 28 different ways to grow your rent roll without having to rely on salespeople, just go to leadmachinesecrets.com. The book is free. All you got to do is just pay for the shipping. It is the best, most comprehensive, the most useful user manual on how to grow your rent roll with 28 unique and different creative ways without having to rely on the sales team to drop these leads into your lap. Let it be the cream, but not your bread and butter. So with that in mind, Dennis, we were talking about some of the problems of relying on salespeople yesterday. You said you had a note placed on your desk when you were a BDM from a
yep.
salesperson. What did that note say?
Well, they basically had told me, here's the lead, here's the fee that I have quoted for you, Dennis, and here's the rent that I've also told them that you're going to get, and obviously we all know, and this comes across my phone call, my emails, my desk, should we say, all the time. I get those frustrations at sales agents. Sales agents are doing their job. Their job is to sell the property, and they're just giving a guesstimation, right? And they want to sell the property. So maybe they may inflate the guesstimation a little bit, and they might nudge you and say, come on, give it a crack, but they don't realize that, it's going to sit vacant and you're the one that's got to deal with the landlord because of the expectations that are set, but in the end, you're not going to give just add $100,000 to the price of what it'll get. Just win the listing. You'll be right. It doesn't work that way, and especially quoting fees. Oh my goodness, what's really interesting, Darren. When I look back at it, this particular lead that was given me, they hadn't even purchased the property through our company. So it's not like they were, just give a discount because they purchased through us. It was it was a clean new lead, right? So, they're moving out of the property and leaving the area. So,
So
but
the
anyway,
salesperson didn't, I mean, you shouldn't have for them to represent the rent roll like that and quote fees on the rent roll's behalf, or even quote rent on the property manager's behalf if they're not a specialist, which they're not. But what you're saying is that was a lead that wasn't even a person that's just bought a property from that salesperson. It was a very clean lead that the salesperson didn't need to get involved.
Yep, which just made it even more extraordinary. Darren, just in the news today, I was reading, it was a podcast, Yellow Brick Road podcast, that I was listening to. And, the experts on there were saying that, sales have slowed down in the major capital cities across Australia. And there's a negative 1% on all of the values of the properties as well. Now, we're in a crisis because of, sadly, there's a war that's going on, fuel's going up. We've got election dramas that it's happening throughout the year as well. So there's interest rates have gone up. So there's so much uncertainty going on, and sales are being affected because of this. So when sales are being affected so much, if you're relying on sales, all of a sudden your lead, your machine is now stopping. It's dying. It's gonna be affected, right?
And no business should rely on one strategy. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. You've got to disperse your risk across several strategies and work them hard. So, Dennis, also we know about salespeople is that if they feel they're not getting the right incentive, what do we know that they could, what are we aware that what they could do?
Well, during our IGT mastermind that we did at the beginning of March, I don't like to date things too much, but it wasn't that long ago, and I was actually talking about referrals and stuff in there, and there was two people in the training that were popping in, and they said that they receive leads from other sales agents that have got a property management division, right? So these sales agents are referring because, one of them was saying that they just don't trust the system. They don't trust the agency they work in. And the other one was because they're offering an incentive and the current agency they work with don't, right? So it does happen. This is another reason why you can't rely on your own sales team. I'm not saying, and we are not saying, that salespeople in your agency are throwing it out there and they're giving it to your rivals. But however, you need to be watching this. This is a reason why some people can't rely on your own sales agents, just in case they are referring it out there. That's what we're implying.
And what we're saying, everyone, is salespeople are great. If you've got a strong sales team, all kudos to you. But just don't rely on it for consistent leads, or lean heavily on those leads if that's your only main source of getting leads, except a few from online and cold leads. And even then, they can be then low quality because they come in with low to no trust. You don't want leads like that either. You want quality leads that come in on high trust, just like a salesperson lead, because it comes in on their transfer of trust, or referral leads, which come in on trust. You want to develop a whole pile of other leads. Okay. So again, we're just going to repeat. Your sales team needs to be your cream. Okay. But not the bread and butter, not your staple. You want to be able to rely on several core strategies that you can also be getting regular leads from. So if your sales team dries up, which is happening quite a lot, you've got these other pipelines, you've got these lifelines of other leads coming in that you've developed as well. So with that in mind, again, everyone, we've written the book, Lead Machine Secrets. It's actually Dennis's strategies, 28 different creative, unique ways to grow your rent roll without having to rely on salespeople, doing the very thing that we're telling you to do. Go and get the book, leadmachinesecrets.com. The book is free. All you got to do is pay for shipping. So Dennis, let's turn to the book. You've picked out 5 strategies out of the 28 that we want to talk about today.
And Darren, out of these 5 strategies that we've picked, we will be doing a podcast on every single strategy, right? We will cover it. So, we're just going to quickly do have a conversation about each one. And this one I love because everyone hates it. So while I loved it and converted 100% of my business through it, I remember the time when you asked me, Darren, So Dennis, what's your percentage? And I said, what do you mean? You said, well, what's the percentage you converted? I said, well, all of them, you know. So I didn't, but I didn't chase potential like these landlords that were in an area that I didn't want to manage properties, the house I knew about, etc. Right? You've
So,
got to be very smart with the leads that you're chasing.
so
You
what
know.
Dennis is alluding to, everybody, is in strategy number 7 in the book is how to convert private landlords. Now,
Hmm.
I mean, for me, I've always found private landlords very difficult, and they're private for a reason. One of those is they don't like to lose control. They can be very involved unnecessarily and cause a few issues. However, it is obviously a genuine strategy. So on page 94, but what got me about Dennis is that when I was used to go and try and canvass private landlords through various means, my conversion rate was very difficult. And so when Dennis said he had a 100% conversion rate, I was shocked. He admitted in the number of years he was a BDM, he lost one. All right. Out of all of the years, he was able to sign them up. But the great thing is, in strategy number 7, is Dennis's recipe on how he did it. And that's what got me, because I thought if I did that strategy, I would have got a much better conversion rate. So Dennis, just in a nutshell, what's your main teaching there? It's obviously not about selling, but it's
No.
about advice and helping.
Well, it's like our strategy for education videos. When people see our education of us educating, BDMs and property managers on things, we're then looked upon as the expert, right? And so your job is to educate the private landlord. If you're going to ring them up and saying, "Why aren't you using me?" Their backs to the wall. That's like ringing us a strategic alliance and saying, "I want you to refer business to me." They've already got relationships. They've already done it themselves. And admittedly, in Australia, the stats of winning a private landlord is a lot more difficult than other countries. Darren, in the US and the UK, up to 80% are privately managed.
Yes, they are, and
Set up a
because
business there, right? You would
legislation
just
is what it is.
focus. You would do the social media and stuff and do the education, but you'd be educating all the private landlords, the self-managed owners, right? You would do well. And look, the statistic in New Zealand ranges 50, 60%. I hear, but let's say it's 60% is, or 40% is self-managed. It's still a huge percentage,
Yeah, and it's
and
closing because the higher and the tougher that
yeah,
legislation gets, the more that landlords don't want to do it anymore because it's just too hard. All right, and we
yeah, so
know
you've got
that.
to
So,
educate.
for example, if you go into the short-term rental market, Airbnbs and all that sort of thing, there's next to no or no legislation. And if you've got a really good app to manage it, then agents find it really, really tough to justify their services to a landlord. Of course, if they live in the state, it's a lot easier because they need someone on the ground to manage it. So
Yeah,
it is a
spot on.
legislation thing. So Australia is the most legislated country in the world when it comes to property management. And of course, then we've got the largest agent managed market. But just as an FYI, in strategy number 7, converting private landlords, we've actually got 5 steps that you could easily follow with Dennis's recipe. But also there's 3 really good scripts in there that Dennis used when he was speaking to them. You got the exact wording in there. You got the exact methodology in there. Go and get the book and read it, apply it, and you'll do well. Dennis, let's move on to the next one, which is current clients. It's
Yep.
growing with the current clients, contacting current clients, and finding out who's got access to more rental properties or more leads. That's in strategy number 8, page 108. And there's a lot of, I mean, everyone is listening to this has current clients, so they could
Well,
actually
Darren,
start doing it now. So what stops them picking up the phone, Dennis?
well, because they spend so much time on winning the business, they forget about spending just as much time on keeping the business. It's really important. Don't just think once you've got the prize, it's over. You've got to build relationship with them. You've got to build communication with them, and you've got to turn them not just into a fan. You've got to turn them into a raving fan, and that comes back to doing. We call them no reason calls, but there's a reason. The reason that you're calling them outside of the hustle and bustle of real estate. Stop calling them for maintenance routines, tenants not paying rent, whatever, and give them updates. Talk to them about referrals. Talk to them about if they got family and friends. Have they got a second property? I mean, these are things that we're meant to be doing with regards to when you're signing them up. I used to even joke if someone ever asked me for a discount, I say, "Oh, you're looking for? Have you got multiple properties? Have you? You know?" And I'd throw it back at them. But we forget, we don't always ask. So it's really important. Just, you know what, the strategies start with it. The beginning of strategy 8, I talk about it. Identify first. Don't try and do all things at once. Just identify. Don't ask for the business. Just remember, mark it down, and then go get back to them. You're allowed to call them more often than ever. But it's really about just building that relationship and trust with them to start with. Darren, the next strategy that I love, you know, is one of my favorite because my rivals never did it. So I used to love doing it because it is all about, being top of mind. We're such an online society these days. We forget about the physical aspect of business. And strategy 9 is growing your rent roll with letterbox flyers or door hangers. This is when you're digging into your local community, and just because sometimes, Darren, I get people, they say to me, "Oh, Dennis, but it's a high rental area." Darren, can I ask you a question? Do you know any landlords that are tenants? Because I do. I'm one, right? So does that mean, oh, Dennis is a tenant, we won't put a promotional item in his letterbox? I'm a landlord. Like, yes, there are landlords that are tenants, or they know landlords as well. Imagine if it's privately managed, right? But it's a high rental area and they may not be happy, or the owner might be moving away thinking about using an agent. There's so many angles to look at, right?
So Dennis, just with this, and just as an FYI, the strategy before everyone, there is 4 strategies and 3 scripts. That's working with current clients. Particularly, you need to know these things, what to say when the client picks up the phone, and the reason for your call, and what are the best times to actually call the client. These are happy calls, and you just got to pick the right happy moments, and we list them out in the book. Dennis, with this one here, what I like as well, we've got a couple of scripts in there, but also door hangers, because how did you come across door hangers? Why not just letterbox flyers? What happened there?
Yeah, well, basically, when I was training, Stephen Rosenberg is the reason for this one. Actually, I was training Kelly, his BDM, his award-winning BDM. She was a masterful BDM. But
This is when
I
you're
remember I was doing some.
training in
Yeah, I
Texas.
was training a Texas agent, and I said, and I was talking about a couple of strategies, leaving a business card in the mailbox or letterbox, or and she's like, "But what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, this is what you do. You write on the card, and you say thanks for your time today, and you leave it in the letterbox, and it's another touch point." And she said, "But I don't understand." And I went, "What do you mean you don't understand?" She goes, "But you put it in the letterbox." And I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "But you're not allowed in America." And I went, "What do you mean you're not allowed in America?" Like, you're physically not allowed to put anything in a mailbox in America because it's all government owned. It's against the law there. So, and it had me thinking. And then, I was staying in a hotel, and remember the breakfast things on the doors. You remember those days, Darren, when you tick what you want and they deliver it to the room? So I thought, wow, that's what you could do. You could do a door hanger, right, and put it on someone's door. So we've got quite a few of our clients now, and even non-clients that are doing this. And I think it's a fabulous way of potentially avoiding the "please don't put any junk in my mailbox." But Darren, is it junk? It's education, isn't it?
Too right. Okay, let's move on. All right, so let's talk about the next one. In fact, investor events. So these are educational events, evenings that you can do, talking about property investment, getting property investors in. It's strategy number 14 in the book, page 140. But everyone, I've actually worked in a rent roll once where the whole rent roll was built on investor education events. Now,
Yep.
that rent roll was incredibly clean because all of the owners were investors, which means none of them wanted to move back into their property. They all had a buy and hold strategy, so no one was selling, and had an incredible amount of stability with it, Dennis, and so easy. Yeah, and you've had a lot of success with these as well.
I did my very first one. I listed 4 properties, and I thought, wow,
Wow.
I need to do one every week. You
Yeah.
know, Darren, can I just say, it is so important right now. Right now, it is so important to be running these events,
Oh, look,
updating your local market on what's happening in the real estate sector.
of
Like
course.
there is not enough education out there. You know, we're scream doing educational videos. I don't even think we're going to cover that in today's one, but there's another strategy for you. So we're giving you another free one there. But,
Yeah.
you know, you need to educate your local marketplace. And when you're doing these investor evenings, you are standing tall over the top of your rivals because they're not doing them. So many times I speak to clients and they used to do them, but it's been 2, 3, 4 years since they've done it because George, who used to do them, doesn't work in the company anymore, right? So it is a key. In the book, I am giving you every single step so you can follow and do it. The blueprint is there, and it
Yeah.
is also about
It is.
collaborating with your
Yeah.
strategic alliances. You're
We've got
utilizing other businesses.
we've got several scripts in there as well. There's a step
Yeah,
5 process, everyone. But the problem is, Dennis, we know you could write a whole book just on that.
yeah,
So we've had to cut down. Unfortunately, it's a chapter in the book. It could be a whole book in itself. Of course, chatting with Dennis as well, everyone, is probably the best thing you want to do. And we can give you guidance on running your own investor events. We've even done them online, Dennis, where people have run them on Zoom. And
yep.
we've emceed those events and made them happen on behalf of the agent as well. Zoom's
Eh,
really good because not everyone can come to your event. They could be interstate. So these
You
types of
do
events,
both, right? You
yeah,
can do both. We were doing those during the pandemic, Darren,
yeah.
right? So, you know, do them online, but there's nothing stopping people from being able to do them. And you'd record them live, you put them to your YouTube channel, you split them up, create reels, you know, throw them all over your socials, your website, the lot. There is so much that you can do with it, and they're not that hard to do, you know, and you're utilizing your local community as well as your local, pardon me, strategic alliances.
Nothing that builds authority as good as, for example, a book or a podcast. But another thing, if people attend one of your investor education events and they perceive you, you must be the expert, it stays in their brain for a long time to come. So you might have people that attend now, but next year they buy something, or the year after, and they bring it back simply because they remember you being the expert, the impact they had, the authority that they sat under. And your expertise really, really impressed them, because this is a game of trust. It's not a game of fees. Game of trust. The person with the most trust wins the business.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing. But of course, it is long term as well. You need to do them regularly, just like letterbox drops need to be done on a regular basis. But again, page 145, which is secret number 14, strategy number 14 in the book, investor education events. Dennis, let's move on to the last one we're going to talk about in this podcast. Of course,
I've got it ready.
but
I've
on
got it ready.
strategy number 24, page 222, on property marketing, Dennis. How does property marketing, everyone's doing it, but how does property marketing turn into signed up new managements?
Well, Darren, people are actually, you and I had a conversation yesterday, right? I just want to, I'll bring this back. You were dealing with a particular business, and we don't need to mention the business because, you know, but, and you said to me that you went, oh my goodness, this is what they charged, right? But you didn't question the fees that they were charging because it was a referral client. Someone referred the business to you. So you trusted them, you rang them because you just knew they were going to get the job done for you, right? So there's two types of referral business that comes in. One is your family and friends. They're the ones that are guaranteed going to ask for a discount. 100% they're going to ask for a discount, right? Unless they're your great grandmother and they're just happy to use you, right? But then there's the business referral partners, and they're more respected. But what's happening these days, even with referral business, people are doing their own homework. They're jumping online, they're having a look, they're seeing how you're interacting on social media, they're checking your Google reviews, there's another strategy, and they're looking at your social media, there's your second strategy, and another one they're looking at is how are you going to market their property. Marketing properties is a huge point of difference, and irrespective of what your rivals are doing, just because no one else is offering videos or professional photography, professional video tours, drones, 3D, 360 marketing or 360 virtual plans and stuff, if you're offering it to your client, they're the ones that are making the decision, you stand out, right? It will help you in business. If I manage properties, I would have the worst portfolio ever. I would sign business up, but if I was managing them, I'm the worst person, right? But I tell you what, Darren, if I was coming up against you and I'm offering all of these different types of marketing, like 360 tours, drones, the whole lot, and you don't, I'm all of a sudden the expert and you're not. They're thinking, wow, this guy, look at him. I can't manage properties for peanuts, but because I'm offering it, and they are looking at how you're marketing properties, right? Because your job is to showcase, and you will get the benefits from, the higher quality tenants you can attract to the properties. They're going to stay in the properties longer as well, and the time on market is going to be even shorter. So then you can use those stats to even help you in business. The way you market properties is going to attract you higher quality leads, ones that aren't going to ask for discounts because they see the value in you.
Yeah.
Should I stop talking or should I keep going?
Impressive property marketing impresses property investors because they're losing sleep over these sort of things. They're losing sleep. They want to get the property rented as soon as possible. They got that stress and that anxiety. Good quality property marketing that shows them they're going to reach their goal really, really fast. They can trust you with that, just accelerates you into a management agreement with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Darren, let's also add it's, doing the premier listings on the web portals and stuff like that. It all adds up, right? It's the way, it's not just how you take a photo or do a video, but it's also how you're showcasing it to, online as well, like your premier marketing. There's so many different things to do, for your marketing. And if you're doing it smart through doing fast music, fun stuff on TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels and stuff, you're going to draw people. I was watching a TikTok the other day, Darren. It was a UK agent, and they're standing out the front of a property saying it's for rent, and they're naked behind the sign. Right. Well, they're not, but it's alluded that way, and it catches everyone's attention. And he goes, "Hey, caught your attention. Let's go in and have a look." Right. That's it was great. You should have had like 1.3 million views on this thing. And then there's a lady in America. She plays hide and seek. Right. It's the different types of marketing. Everyone is thinking inside the box, but you've got to think outside the box. All of these things get more eyes on you. There's another lady. She's like, oh my goodness. And she talks down to the property. She just has that dry sense of humor. This is a 4-bedroom property. It's not in a very good neighborhood, but it's a castle for somebody. It's got 3, she just single monotone, and she gets all of these comments, all these eyes on the property. That's thinking outside the box as well, right? But, all the steps, I've got steps here in the book. Let's bring it back so people can,
Okay. So everyone, if you've got also an hour and a half to focus on growing your rent roll every week, all right, and to learn strategies, to learn the best skills that get 10, 20 properties a month and signing up, if you're sick and tired of not getting good results, and you're ready to put some effort into it, get in contact with us. Now, Dennis, they've got a book in your diary, have a chat, because our masterminds run every week for an hour and a half. Top Growth Mastermind, also the BDM Coach Mastermind every Wednesday on Zoom, group coaching. We've got a number of people in there that are also learning just like you, that you can bounce off, learn and hear what is working for others. So Dennis, what's the easiest and best way into your diary?
Darren, people can connect with me anytime. GrowMyRentRoll.com. I'm happy to chat with them. And the great thing about that link is they pick the time that suits them, right? Yep. But yeah, GrowMyRentRoll.com. I'm happy to have a discovery call with anyone. Don't ever think that we're too busy to have a chat with you, because we're always here to help.
So if you're ready to put some effort in to grow your rent roll, to stop relying on your salespeople, book in, go to growmyrentroll.com, straight into Dennis's diary, and also get the book, leadmachinesecrets.com as well. We're done. Look forward to seeing you in the next Top Growth podcast show. Also, don't forget, go to the BDM Coach podcast show as well. That's where we teach you BDM skills. And we've also got Win Your Worth podcast show as well. That's where I go through on how to get the best revenue and the best fees, no matter how discount your rivals get or how much they're playing the game of race to the bottom. We'll show you how to win. Take care, everyone. We'll see you in the next podcast show. Cheers.
Take care.